Hello, welcome to Creativity Boost Podcast. What if I told you that the only thing keeping you from earning 10 times what you're earning right now is some hesitation or procrastination, as we'll call it? Well, in today's conversation, we are going to be demystifying the mysteries around what keeps holding you back from more than you can be, what keeps holding you back from more than you can have, what keeps holding you back from being all that you're meant to be, all that you're destined to be, all that you're destined to have. What keeps holding you back from being more, doing more, and having more? And in today's conversation, we're going to be having Gregory Rutledge, who is a coach that helps lots of entrepreneurs to overcome mindless hesitation. As a matter of fact, today we're going to be talking about how to go from mindless hesitation to ruthless execution. How about that? Well, I'm going to bring on my guest today and we're going to unpack this wonderful conversation. Hi, Gregory. Do you want to tell us a bit about yourself as we get this started?
Hey, man, I'd love to. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I always love it when someone does an introduction that tells you exactly what you're about to get from this. So as he said, I'm Gregory Rutledge, also known as 𝐔𝐻. I am the CEO of Question Everything, author of From Waiter to Greater, how anyone can level up from where they are. And I am a professional ray of sunshine, a human icebreaker. I've heard a lot of them, introvert whisperer. What I do is I help people to live from the heart, just to speak from the heart coach. Like, there are so many things that we want to do that God has put in us, and we don't do them because someone else has laid something on us that wasn't ours. They've projected their fears on us, or there's something that we're not quite sure how people will receive us. And so we'll either sabotage it or we'll fear the success. Like, what happens if I actually do the thing that I was meant to do? What does it look like if I get everything I really want? I don't know what that looks like past there. So what I do is I help question everything. I question the things you hold as truth. I question where you are, where you want to be, and how do we bridge the gap? And that process looks different for everyone. That's why it's been so hard for me to niche down. Like, what is it that I do? Well, I be me. And when I'm me in the right environment, the right people are changed. But I understand niching down for the sake of putting me in a box where people know where to find me and what I'm good for, right? What tool is this?
Yeah.
That's me in a nutshell, man.
Wow. Thank you so much for telling us a bit about yourself. And there's so much in there, right there, to unpack. So we're going to take it piecemeal by piecemeal. First of all, can you tell us what you think is the biggest problem that keeps entrepreneurs and professionals from being more, doing more, and having more?
Oh, absolutely. How did you put it? The biggest thing keeping entrepreneurs problem. That's what you said. The biggest problem that is keeping entrepreneurs from being more, doing more, and having more. I would say it's fear because that's what everyone calls it, but it's really anxiety. It's using our thoughts, our greatest superpower we have, the ability to focus on whatever it is, whether it's good or bad, and using that to create something we don't want. So if I've been doing it myself lately. I'm not excluded from this. I've been an entrepreneur for this is week 6, and ask me what I've done. I've done nothing but think about all of the possibilities and things I can do. And, I can do this and I can do this. Now I have time. And then before you know it, the day is over and I don't have time. And it starts with thinking of the possibility of what I can do. And it ends up thinking of all the ways that it could go wrong, or all the ways that it won't work, or what if people don't like me? What if people don't accept me? What if I don't make money in time? And it just turns into this cesspool of thoughts that make me feel a feeling that rob me of the power I have in my hand, right? Our thoughts stem from our beliefs. Our beliefs are so deeply ingrained that they're like foundational. They're like roots. And if you don't dig up the roots that were planted by someone else, or the weeds that are suffocating the roots from giving you the true fruit that you, only you, can bring to this world, then what you'll do is you'll keep living in a loop of someone else's dream, someone else's fear, someone else's expectation or limitation of what you can be and do and have, right? And we are trained the complete opposite from everyone else. We are trained to have something in order to do something so we can be someone. And that's the complete opposite, man. It's, I have to have a degree so I can do the thing that I said I was going to do when I was 5 years old, when I grew up, right? I made a decision before I was old enough to understand who I was and what my purpose was. And now I have to spend years in college sticking to a decision I made that was answered in a cute question when I was 5 because it sounded cool coming from my mouth. So I can do something that I don't even want to do. Do you know how many people I worked with as a waiter that had masters, bachelors, and PhDs that chose to wait tables because they've got this pile of debt now and this degree that says they can do this thing, but they don't have any experience doing it. So now they need the job to get the experience, but they need the experience to get the job. And instead of going through the entry level and working your way up the way they think you have to do it, they're like, I made more waiting tables or bartending. And so they're there with this expensive piece of paper, slaving their lives away to pay for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is so big right there. That is so big. So that brings us right to my next question, because a lot of people have let themselves, become less than what they can be because of that anxiety and procrastination. In fact, I think anxiety actually produces procrastination. But I want you to, take us deeper into that school of thought of how procrastination actually culminates to, you not having the profit that you could have, or you not experiencing the massive wealth and increase that you could experience. And the reason why I'm asking you this question, let me set a bit of context, is because I work with people to try to help them go from idea to increased income, to go from concept to cash flow. And one of the biggest things holding them back, I've seen, is they are afraid to turn their ideas to tangible creations or profitable solutions that would actually culminate into the money, the cash flow, and the profit. And one of the reasons why is procrastination. So, having said that background, can you take it over?
Absolutely. So I love the way you're approaching this too. Let me just say that. You're giving me the background of why you're asking me the question. So I'm going to give you the background of what procrastination means.
Go for it.
I believe the root words, it's a compound word. So there's more than one thing happening here. Pro meaning for, crastinus, tomorrow. So in favor of tomorrow. So whatever you're putting off for tomorrow is actually a problem, right? I can't remember. There was a friend of mine who's actually in the same coaching space we are in, but she had looked up what does problem mean, and I can't say it verbatim, and I'm not going to take the time to look at my phone, but it's basically something that was casted on from the future or from the past. Something that was put off from the past now became a problem.
Wow.
So real quick math in my head. So procrastination creates problems? So when I keep putting things off into the future because I'm afraid of the outcome, I'm afraid of all of the various things that could or couldn't happen. I'm creating them in my head and creating a feeling that keeps me stuck and keeps me from doing it. So if I'm procrastinating, how is that affecting my cash flow? How is that affecting turning my ideas into something that's tangible so that someone else can have a problem solved, right?
Yeah.
And I can have the profit for solving it for them. Well, if I'm putting it off for tomorrow, the time's going to pass anyway, right?
Yeah.
So here's a few mantras that have helped me in my life that I got away from because I started taking medications for my ADHD. I'm doing air quotes for those of you listening because it's not a disorder. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I won't go on that sidebar, but I will say this. I have extra creative ability. I have more ability to create solutions for people because of my disorder. Again, in air quotes. There is no deficit of attention. We have way too much attention. As a matter of fact, our brains have to be operating at 100%, meaning we have to be doing multiple things at the same time in order for us to thrive. We can't sit still and focus on one thing. That's why we're entrepreneurs, right? Because we are the middleman between problems and solutions. We connect dots for people that they didn't see because we have to use 100% of our brain, and we're bored if we don't. So if I'm constantly putting things off into the future, right, because I think I have all the time in the world, what's going to happen is eventually my clock's going to run out, and I'm going to run out of time to do the thing. And that fear of how much it's going to take, right, while you're sitting in your head thinking about how much it's going to take, when you just take that first action, you do that first thing, you may fail. As a matter of fact, I'm not even going to say you will fail. In some way, shape, or form, it's going to feel like failure, but the only failure is giving up. You're going to mess up. Something's going to go wrong with your equipment. Something's going to happen with Facebook Live or YouTube or whatever. Your computer's going to crap out. There's going to be something, right? But you learn what not to do. You learn what to do. You learn what you have feedback. When you do something, you have feedback, and you can improve from feedback. When I ask for feedback from people, I'm like, don't tell me that I was great and that I did good and I'm this greatness. I can't improve from that. Like, if I'm already great, then what am I doing? Right? But if you tell me, you can improve here, here, and here, I can do something with that. Or if you rewatch your content that you put out, if you go through your own modules that you create, your own creation to solve someone else's problem, if you go through it yourself, you'll find that there's some holes in it. True. But what happens is, if we're putting it off into the future, as if we'll live forever, we're not thinking and I don't know how to word this. We're not thinking of the reality that we could potentially die any day. And we're going to die with that song inside of us that only we could sing.
And you see, many entrepreneurs, many professionals, many potential billionaires and millionaires, they are heading for the grave in droves with their brainchild sitting in their head unbirthed. They are pregnant with amazing brain children, pregnant with ideas, pregnant with opportunities, but they shut these things up within them. They shut these things up in the womb of their mind, and they allow procrastination to abort their brain children without allowing it to get expression. And so they end up going to their grave with all of these things that should have gained expression in the world. No wonder Miles Monroe said, the wealthiest spot on earth is the graveyard. Why? Because in the graveyard, you find books that were never written, songs that were never sung, melodies that were never given expression, ideas that were never birthed. And procrastination has proved to be one of the biggest things that keeps people from becoming all that they can be. And I like the way you put it. Procrastination is putting something off to the future. Maybe a problem you should have solved, putting it off to the future. A problem that came by negligence that was exercised in the past. So it's like a loop. Procrastination, putting it over to the future, and then when you're in the future, the problems you should have solved in the past, or someone else should have solved in the past, waits for you in the future. And when you get there, you reprocrastinate, you push it over again. And so you just find that a lot of people are in this loop, never-ending loop of not getting things done, not becoming what they should become so that they can do what they should do or have what they should have. Now, that brings me to this question. And I like the way you gave that introduction about, meeting people who were stuck in a job they hated because they found themselves in a place where they were not ready to take action, to break out of the box, to break out of the norm. So what can you tell us about that experience, and what can you prescribe as a solution for someone who is in that never-ending loop of procrastination right now?
Man, I was just about to come back to those mantras I told you before I went on the sidebar of medication and ADHD. Thank you for helping me complete this loop, because there are certain things you have to work with who you are, right? There are plenty of people out here that have tons of content that is just you're inundated with content that tells you who you should be, what you should do, and what you should have by a certain age. But if that's not who you are, if that's not what you're meant for or what's meant for you, and you keep trying to chase something that's not yours, you may never get to the place you're supposed to be. So those mantras I was talking about, there's a few things that really helped me, and I'm going to give you 3. The first one it evolved. It's become, if anything scares you, face it head on so that nothing stands in your way. It started with a quote from Eleanor Roosevelt: do one thing every day that scares you. And I took that to heart. I was like, I'm not afraid of anything. And then I got that bumper sticker and I put it on my car for other people because I thought they needed it. Come to find out, I was afraid of everything, right? I was 20 something. I thought I was so strong. And then I stopped doing drugs and got into recovery and realized I'm not going to say that. I was a scaredy cat. I was scared of everything. And the first thing I did was go to a restaurant and eat alone. And I was like, why is this so hard? Why is it so hard to just go eat alone? Because I don't want people to look at me. You know, in junior high, people judge the way you chewed, the way you walked. Walking to the what do you call it? The pencil sharpener was the most mortifying thing. If your pants weren't over your shoes, they call you high water. If your shoes weren't the right ones, they'd make fun of your shoes. If you walked like a girl, like there was so many things, and we take all of that in as a sponge. And then we live with these fears that have been placed on us as our identity of who we are from other people that were lost or that had those things put on them by their parents, right? It's not fair. So that's the first. If anything scares you, if you face it head on, fear is a mile wide and it's a mile high, but it's only paper thin. And once you bust through, it's just muscle memory. Nothing is ever going to be as hard as the very first time. The first time I went live versus earlier today, major difference, right? I feel no jitters when I get on a podcast or when I turn on my live or when I turn on a camera. Used to be, I turn on the camera and I go stupid. I have no words, right? I need a script. I need something to keep me on track. But now it's in here, right? I've done that work. Second thing, if I don't do it, I won't do it. Very, very simply. I used to set timers for myself. And I've just gotten back to this because you have to gamify life. You have to make it fun. We are all children. We are all God's children. And we are all bored to death because we're having to do things that man told us we need to do. But God said, to get into the kingdom of heaven, you must be like these. That, you know, when they were trying to get the kids to go away, it was like, what are you doing? Yeah. Let those kids in. If you want to get into the kingdom, you got to become like them. So what I heard is we got to be big kids. And what happens when you get a group of people together and you're doing a workshop and you have a fun activity where they get to cut out pictures and play with glue and paste it, or they get to play with Legos, or, you know, you get adults to do things they haven't done in 20, 30, 40, 50 years. They come alive. And when people come alive, they spend more money. I learned that waiting tables. When people are having fun, they tip. They tip more, way more. And the third thing, remind me the question one more time. How to beat this cycle of procrastination? Yeah. That's what it was. The loop of procrastination. So if anything scares you, face it head on so that nothing stands in your way. If I don't do it, I won't do it. And what is the best that can happen? I was going to say, what's the one thing, what's the simplest thing, the action, the one thing that you can do right now? But what's the best that can happen? I'll tie those both in together. So let me tell the story. So I had a sponsor at one point in a program I was in, and I was freaking out. I was just like, oh my gosh, everything. I had just moved out on my own. This is my first time living on my own and got all these things to do and don't know which one to do first. Pretty much how I get every other week. But here's the solution, right? And I know the solution, and that's the sad thing is you will know a solution, but why don't I do what I know? I can give it to someone else, but ask me to apply it to myself. And that's the key. That's another key. Like, you have all the answers already. You're just giving them to the wrong people, right? Give them to yourself first. Put on your oxygen mask first. So he tells me he was so calm. He was so smooth. Like, back in his old days, he had the Jesus hair and he did not have a permanent home address. He just floated wherever life took him. And he was a carpenter, which was kind of crazy too. I didn't know that about him until after he passed. But he's so calm, and he's like, well, what can you do about any of that? And I'm like, how are you so calm? Like, you don't even know how you're going to eat from day to day. And he's like, but I'm grateful. I ate, have a roof over my head, and I have people that love me. It's a good day. That was it. So he told me to make a list. He told me to write down everything that's in my head, which is basically a brain dump, right? Get it all out so you can see it. Because up here, you're only working with 5% of your conscious brain. The rest of it is 95% of it is subconscious, which is a loop. Yeah. But once you get it out, the act of writing, the act of seeing it and seeing it's not as insurmountable as you thought because it's all there. It's like, cool. Now, out of that, what's the most important? And I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow. This is so much easier than trying to remember it up here. My brain felt clear. I felt lighter. I looked at it. I was like, well, this, and this. He said, I didn't say that. I said, what's the one thing? I was like, that. He's like, go do that. Went and did that. I left the meeting, went and did that thing. It gave me the motivation to do all those other things. And the things that didn't get done were just distractions, things that I was putting out there so that I didn't have to do the thing I was afraid of doing. And the what's the best that can happen was I was afraid to start my YouTube channel. I was afraid to start showing up and doing content. And I had a life coach back in 2020-ish. And she's like, just go for it, dude. And I was like, yeah, what's the worst that can happen? She's like, why would you say that to yourself? No, let's reframe that. She says, what's the best that can happen? And I was like, I like that. Because that gets me thinking along the lines of what are the best things that can happen if I just do it? Well, the best that can happen is it works. The next best thing that can happen is that someone pays me for it. The next best thing that can happen is I can leave my job and this is what I do for a living. But what's the worst that can happen? Gets you focused on what? The worst. Why would anyone think that? Like, we don't understand the power of our mind. So if anything scares you, face it head on so that nothing stands in your way. Because fear is a mile wide and it's a mile high, but it's only paper thin. Rest is just muscle memory. If I don't do it, I won't do it. If it can be done, do it today. There's a law called Parkinson's Law. If time will expand to fill the time allotted for a task. So if I give myself 2 weeks, 2 hours, or 2 minutes to do something, I'll find a way to make it happen.
Absolutely.
And the longer you give yourself, the longer you have to procrastinate and put it off in the future because the deadline isn't until, and you're going to stress about it that whole time. So you might as well just do it now. Because if you don't do it, you won't do it. And then that final, what's the best that can happen? What's the simplest thing you can do right now? Make a brain dump. Get it all out there. Look at it. Get it out of your head. Your head is not your friend. Those 3 things right there have been so helpful for me. And then I'll add this as a bonus. This is the 4th. Call someone. Get on that phone. Call someone that supports you. Call someone with a like mind. Call someone that's in a coaching program you're in or in a community you're in that's doing the same thing as you. And ask them how they're doing. Don't tell them how you're doing. Ask them how they're doing. Because what's going to happen is it's going to get you out of your head long enough to hear where their problems are. And what usually ends up happening is you realize, oh, maybe my problems aren't as bad as I thought they were, right? But then something they say clicks and helps you to solve your problem. And then the fact that you listen to them helps them solve their problem because they got to talk it out with someone and they came to their conclusion. And so by reaching out to another human, right, both people are helped. Pain shared is lessened, joy shared is doubled.
Awesome. Now, you said a lot of really great things, really profound thoughts. And while you were speaking, something popped up in my mind. And I've thought about it many months ago. Like, people are so creative, but the problem is that they channel their creativity in the wrong direction. So, for example, instead of channeling one's creativity to say, how can I make this thing work? they will channel their creativity towards why this thing won't work. And so they come up with creative reasons why it won't work and creative ways that thing or that activity will fail. They give themselves really thoughtful and creative reasons why they are stuck, and they make excuses for their limitations. And remember the popular saying, if you make excuses for your limitations, you get to keep them. And I feel one of the reasons why many people are stuck in that procrastination loop, just to add to what you said, is that they keep making excuses, creative excuses for their procrastination, creative excuses for not making progress, creative excuses for their mindless hesitation. While you were speaking also, another thing that popped up in my mind, another light bulb that, just turned on in my brain was, you talked about how you authored a book titled From Waiter to Greater. And if I'm not mistaken, you're trying to tell us your experience of how you went from being a waiter to being greater, right? But something just popped up in my head, like many people are in this waiting phase all their lives. So even though they are not the typical waiters, they are waiters because they keep waiting on something to happen. They keep waiting for the perfect time. They keep waiting for the right, push. They keep waiting for the right shirt. They keep waiting for the right weather. They keep waiting for the right whatever. And they never step into their place of greatness because they keep waiting mindlessly. So, having said that, I want you to bring us into the journey of your book. What inspired you to write that book, and what do you think you can prescribe for people who are in this waiting game, who should be in the greatness game, who should be crushing things rather than just waiting for the perfect time that never comes?
That's so good. I'm glad you picked up what I was putting down, man, because it is a double entendre, from waiter to greater. Like, I was a waiter, but not just waiting hand and foot on people for my money, but waiting for someone to validate me, waiting for someone to tell me it was okay to be me. Right. And I love that you said, if you fight for your limitations, or if you make excuses for your limitations, you get to keep them. I've seen both sides. Don't think that when you rise up and tell this world what you're going to do, and you start living in your godly purpose, that the first thing that's not going to show up is the enemy telling you what you can't do, right? I write this book and all of a sudden I can't do nothing. And I'm over here fighting for my limitations. And I've practiced what I can't do so much that I'm telling people, like the people that I've lost hundreds of thousands in the last couple months, fighting for my excuses of why I can't do something. And I see it. Like, it's painful. But you know what? Pain is one of the greatest motivators. Myron Golden says, nothing will, he told us not to quit our jobs. He said, nothing will help you build a business you love like working a job you hate. And boy, was he right. When I finally made those offers and I put them out there, not knowing what was in there, but trusting that I could deliver that transformation, and someone almost bought my $500,000 program. Wow. Do you know how hard it was to sit still? Okay, so that's another topic for another day. But you said something. I just wanted to talk about the limitations, so I'm human, right? I deal with the same things you deal with. I'm working on being greater. It's from waiter to greater. I'm not there yet. I'm great to some people, but to me, I know there's still further I can go. Like, as long as I am alive, I should be working on being greater. So greater is an acronym too. And this is so crazy. I'll tell the story. So you asked, what inspired me to write this book? Well, I keep telling the story of how I went from $213 an hour as a waiter to $250,000 a year as a UX designer in a field that I have no qualifications in. And for those of y'all that think you have to have another degree or another certification or someone to validate you, I was in places that told me I needed a bachelor's, master's, or higher and 5 to 8 years of experience doing the thing. And I came in there with a associate's degree, 3 credits shy of an associate's degree, and in like applied arts, and a 6-month certification at a trade school for UX design. And the rest was networking. The rest was believing in myself and showing up consistently. The rest was thought leadership on LinkedIn. And when I stopped trying to be someone else and I showed up as myself, it got so much easier. So I tell this story over and over again because people would reach out to me and they're like, hey, can you mentor me? Can you help me to break into UX? And I go and I tell the story and I'm like, I need to write a book because I've told this story a million times, or I need to make a video. Right.
Yeah.
And I am so embarrassed to say this. 4 years trying to write the story that I keep telling. Why? Why did it take me 4 years to try and tell the story that I keep telling? Well, there's a variety of reasons, but the most recent, and I've rewritten it 4 or 5 different times. The most recent one was because Myron said, nobody cares who you are. You're not important enough to write an autobiography. You may think you are, but nobody cares that much. How can you help them? Right. And so this last rewrite was like, okay, how can I tell my story to make a point and make a point by telling my story? And that's when it came. It's like the original name for the book was I Have No Idea What I'm Doing, and That's Why It's Working. And when I don't remember who I told. I feel like it was Myron, or maybe it was someone in the program. And they were like, yeah, that's not sexy at all. Like, that does not make me want to read your book. If you have no idea what you're doing, but it's working, that sounds scary. But maybe that's it, right? Maybe I'll do it later once I am more well known. Because if you've been in my life at any point in time, there are these serendipitous, coincidental moments that are too good to not be God that happen just because I show up. Like, getting a job in UX after 6 months of a boot camp and talking to like maybe 35 key people. I probably talked to 350, 3,000. I don't know. I lost track. I got a ton of connections on LinkedIn, but I'm rambling. So it turned into unconventional by design because I have a different way that I do design. I approach design from a place of, when you'd offer solutions as an employee, they're like, that's above your pay grade. Go stay in your place. Go do your work. Right? When you offer solutions as a child, mom's like, go get out of grown folks' business. Children are only to speak when spoken to. Stay in your lane. You get that a lot.
Yeah.
But when you're in the boardroom with billionaires and executives and stakeholders, and they're trying to solve their problems, and you have a question that everyone's thought it, but no one said it. And you're the little humble, I'm the donkey, right? I'm the mule. It's just like, has anyone thought of this? And they're like, oh, let the foolish ones confound the wise, right? And so unconventional by design, it still wasn't it. And then Dahlin, she's a belief reprogramming coach. She's extraordinaire at pulling the roots of your beliefs out of your head so you can live free and clear. She said, Gregory, what about from waiter to grader? Because I was going to do from server to success. And she's like, what about from waiter to grader? So the craziest part about the story was my son comes to me and he does not really, he's never been very into the Bible or talked about God a lot, or, it's just not been his thing. He comes to me and he's shook. He's like, Dad, I have to come over and tell you what happened. Like, it's not going to do it justice in the phone. I have to come over. Comes over and he's like, I was in the shower and a voice not of my own came to me and said, I have a message for your father. Tell him even though it doesn't look like it, he's still doing what I called him to do. It just may not look the same. And stick to the 7-step framework. And I'm over here in my mind, like, what 7-step framework? I don't know what you're talking about. And I start adding up all these other things I've done. I'm like, I don't have a 7-step framework. So when Dahlin gave me that, and GREATER, it hit me, right? So I input into ChatGPT all of my story. I'd written 2 books. One was like an autobiography that I don't want anyone to ever read because it is just my raunchy history. Because everyone has a past, and mine was not pretty. And then there's the one of my story that I was writing about. And I said, of all of the things I've been through and how I've overcome them, is there a 7-step framework that relates to what I've been through, where I was and where I'm at now, that could be an acronym for greater? And the first one it gave me, I was like, that doesn't make sense. So like, is there another one? What about something that people can follow? And so it gave me greater, grounded, reframed, or it gave me something, and I was like, I still don't like that. And so I sat with it for a minute. I was like, okay, thank you for giving me the structure, right? Some things to think about. And so I looked, I thought about it. I sat and had a thinking session because, you know, our coach Myron always says, thinking is the hardest work that most people never do.
Yeah.
And I didn't want GPT to write my book for me. I didn't want GPT to give me all the answers because AI is liquefying our brains. Like when it comes time to doing the thinking, I'm like, let me just ask ChatGPT. Well, then when it's time to think and you don't have a computer nearby to do it, what happens? Right? So I had to be grounded in my unique story. I had to know who I was based on whose I was. I had to reframe some limiting beliefs because there are things that were given to me that were not mine to take. There are things I believe that aren't me. I had to embrace continuous learning. I had to learn things that I didn't know to get to a new place, right? I had to get the piece of paper that at least told me what was up in UX before I jumped in, so I could know what I was talking about. I had to know about sales. I had to know about YouTube and all these other things. Like I have to learn always. The day we stop learning is the day we start dying. Then I had to transition with purpose. I had to know why I was moving. I had to know when it was time to move. No, sorry. I just GRE, grounded, reframe, embrace, continuous learning, action-oriented goals. I had to move. I had to take action. I didn't just set a bunch of goals on paper. I had goals, and I gave my goals. And those goals were still too big, so I gave those goals tasks, right? That's how I do SMART goals. If it's too big, what's the next thing I can do? If that's too big, what's a couple tasks I can do? And then you just knock one out. Don't focus on the big picture. Just what's in front of you. Do that. Right? So action-oriented goals. We're in the business of action. God's in the business of results. Then transition with purpose. Know when it's time to move. Know when and why, right? If you know why, that's going to drive you. And if you want to be great, you can stop there. Grounded, reframed, embraced continuous learning, action-oriented goals, transition. So if you want to be great, we can stop there. If you want to be greater, you have to empower a network. How are you going to show up and serve other people with what you know? So when one teaches to learn, one teaches to learn, right? So who are you empowering around you? When you get to the top, turn around and see who's behind you and help them up, right? Don't put your foot on their head, right? Don't crowd surf with them. That's not what it's for. We're going to go on this journey together. And then the last one, R, resilience in the face of setbacks, because that's the first thing that's going to come when you rise up and you tell the world you're going to be greater. What do you think the devil's going to do?
He's going to come at you
hard. And if he can't get behind you and push you too fast, if he can't get in front of you and stop you, he'll get behind you and push you too fast. I think Joyce Meyer said that. Never forgot that. She only had to say it once. I was like, man, that's it. He couldn't stop me. So he's moving me real fast. And like, I need balance. I need the peace that surpasses understanding. And so the resilience in the face of setbacks, what does resilience look like? Well, I don't feel like it, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I set out to be intentional, but disruption showed up. Okay, so what? Now what? So what? That happened. Now what are you gonna do about it? Right? Very simple. It's okay to feel your feelings, but feelings are like children. You don't want to let them drive the car, but you also don't want to stuff them in the trunk. Sometimes you just got to let them ride in the back seat and scream it out till they fall asleep. That's it. So it's okay to feel those feelings. Just don't pack up and live there. Feel the feelings and get over them. Feeling good isn't the point. I did a live about this earlier today. Feeling good isn't the point. If it was about feeling good or how we felt, could you imagine how chaotic the world would be?
Yeah.
Be a bunch of screaming children everywhere. And so that, which I guess it already is, right? We just don't scream the same. That's the basis of the book, man. Like, it's a framework that works no matter where you work it. Everywhere I've gone, this has been the thing. As long as I'm grounded, and here's the thing, most people are working it backwards. Most people are trying to be resilient. They're trying to just keep getting up and going. They're trying to empower themselves through a network, right? They're trying to use people in a network to get where they want to go. They don't know why they're transitioning, so they keep transitioning. Like, this wasn't for me, so maybe I should move to this. Or, that didn't work out because I only did it once, but it didn't work, right? I posted that one video, but it didn't go viral, so maybe videos aren't for me, right? And they keep taking action, right? Because, well, let me just do more of what doesn't work. Textbook definition of insanity. Doing the same thing the same way, expecting different results, right? Then they're like, well, maybe I just need to learn more. And so they go and try to learn more. Now, do you see the problem? How we're working through this backwards. And so now I just buy another course. I get another book. I watch another YouTube video. And okay, well, maybe it's not the videos. Maybe it's not the courses. Maybe I just need to reframe how I'm thinking about things. So they do affirmations. They do manifestation. They start to question God. Now they go to the universe. Right? And now we're doing tarot card readings. And now we're reading our horoscope. And all this time, they didn't take the time to get grounded. If I'm grounded and I know whose I am and who I am, or who I am based on whose I am, and what my father says about me, all that other stuff, we get to play that backwards. We get to play that the right way. If I'm grounded in who I am based on whose I am, I have nothing to prove, nothing to lose, nothing to hide, nothing to gain. I can simply show up and be me.
Wow, that's amazing. I just allowed you to unpack it all because I knew there was a lot to say there. And I really want to say thank you for taking your time to unbundle that body of insights for our listeners. I have a lot more questions that I would have loved to ask, but I think we've given them enough for today. So I think we can bring our conversation to a close. Probably would have another conversation in the process of time, because this was really, really a great conversation. So I want to say thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing on how to go from mindless execution to ruthless execution and ultimately get from procrastination to profit. For you listening on the other side, I want to believe that you've found a thing or two that you can actually, a thing or two principles or a thing or two insights that you can actually take and run with. And I want to also say that you may think that procrastination is not that deep or is not that serious or is not that much of a big deal. But I'm telling you, procrastination could be the thing that is stopping you from 10xing your profit, 10xing your cash flow, 10xing your success, 10xing your peace, your happiness, and your purpose accomplishment, right? So I'm going to leave it here for now. If you listen to this, I believe you found value. Do well to tell someone about it. Do well to share this with your friends, share this with your circle, share this with your family, share this with your colleagues, because procrastination is eating deep into your profit or their profit. And I believe that the world will be a better place when you do so. Thank you once again, Gregory, for coming on the show. We're going to leave it here for now. And I'm going to see you, my listeners, next time. Until then, have a good one and bye-bye.
All right.